So, what does your body desire most right now?
My body desires 10 people massaging me.
Welcome to the Infinite Earth Body Podcast, where we talk about bodies, healing, pleasure, and share stories of embodiment on Earth. Hi, I'm your host, Maya, and I'd like to just start out with taking a few moments to ground and root into our connection to the Earth, call in the support of our most benevolent ancestors and guides, and set the intention for this shared space of connection to be dedicated to the liberation of all beings. So I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Mercedez. Mercedez is a queer Latina quintessential Pisces who enjoys fat-friendly fitness, being cozy with their cat and partner, embroidery, social justice activism, mystical stuff, podcasts, and being near any body of water. A Chicago native who often lives in and travels to different cities across the world, Mercedez has been practicing massage therapy since 2009. Her mission is to create a safe space for massage that's accessible in all the ways she can make it, compassionate, understanding, trauma-informed, consent-based, queer, and all gender-friendly, body-positive, and disability-friendly. Mercedez aims to make receiving bodywork a priority and not a privilege. As a woman of color, a person who has experienced trauma, body shaming, and queer phobia herself, she understands the importance of healing work to marginalized communities, and that's where their main focus is. Miss Mercedez is one of the most loving people I've ever known, and I've been so grateful for our friendship of over a decade, and I always love talking to you. Welcome to the Infinite Earth Body Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I love talking to you all the time, too.
So, how are you feeling in your body today?
Today I'm feeling tired, but feeling happy, and like my energy is my physical energy is a little low, but I'm really like feeling warm and grateful, and also feeling warm because it's very hot outside, but feeling the warmth of your presence here, and the gratitude for you welcoming me to this podcast, because it's an important project for you and it means a lot. I know our conversations are always really like, we just go right into it, process princess style. And so I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome. So what does your body desire most right now?
My body desires 10 people massaging me. I think it desires that all the time, though.
That sounds nice.
Uh-huh.
So how did you get into body work?
It's actually not that profound or anything. It was an accident. My a friend, I didn't want to go to college, so I never applied to any colleges after high school. And I was giving my friend a shoulder rub one time, and she just randomly said, "You're so good at this, like maybe you should be a massage therapist." And I said, "How do you do that?" And she said, "I think you go to school for it." And I just looked it up on the internet later that day and then said, "I think I could do that." There was no math in the program, so I chose to do that.
So what have you learned through your journey of practicing body work?
I learned that I love it, and that it's really cool to have just kind of jumped into something by chance that I feel really comfortable with. I feel like I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, but it's something that I'm good at, and I feel proud of that. It's so wonderful because it's different with every person's body. And so I get to learn things every day. And I love when people get off the table and they're like, that was amazing. Or, I have a lot of first time people. And that's a really beautiful thing to be a part of. Because it's people who have never really felt trusting enough to receive that kind of intimate touch, by a stranger, no less. And yeah, I've learned a lot of love to different bodies. I've learned about different abilities and different things about how different people's bodies work. Mm-hmm.
So how do you try to make your bodywork sessions accessible to all genders and all bodies and abilities?
Mm-hmm. So there's like a range of things that I try to keep in mind while I'm working on someone. Accessibility is so much more than like being ADA accessible, which my studio currently is not. So for that reason, I offer like home visits for folks that can't make it out to the salon for that reason. And first of all, I try to make the pricing affordable because I know that like economic privilege is like, it's a racism issue, it's a gender issue, it's a queer issue, and disability issue as well. And so I try to make them accessible. Financially, I try to offer sponsored massages for those who can't afford. So other people who have the means can sponsor a massage for someone else. Kind of like just a gift certificate. I use a lot of different like bolstering for different bodies because not everybody's comfortable in the same positions. I offer adjustments for just about anything in the room. I try to keep my space scent free. I listen to people. I think that's actually the number one thing, is that listening to people is a way to be accessible to them, like listening to what they need, and being open to challenging the norms of how massage is done or body work is done. And there are norms because when you go to school for this stuff, you don't really get taught how to work on like just any kind of body. I think there's like an assumption that the people that you're going to be working on are like athletic or, a certain size. Like massage tables are not really made for larger bodies, even taller bodies. And things like that. There's like weight capacities on massage tables. And you have to be mindful of the height, the height of the tables, things like that. There's a lot to think about, but it's really the key is just listening to people and their experiences. I also try to make the massage accessible to survivors of trauma by offering options that help make them feel safe, like changing the music or like having a conversation before I touch any part of their body and things like that. What else? For gender stuff, I just listen to people and ask them how they prefer to be addressed, how they prefer to be talked to about their bodies, and things like that. Mm-hmm.
So, what does healing through body work look like for you?
Myself healing through doing body work, or just anyone in general?
I guess both.
Yeah, so for myself, I definitely, it's been a healing process because, like I said, I get to work on so many different bodies and like, just like, when I'm having my own, a lot of my trauma has to do with having a body and, and like the way that it's perceived and, in various ways, like, and providing this like sort of intimate touch that's non-sexual and that is just like it is really intimate and like I am touching places on people's bodies that they don't normally get touched, and so being able to have that privilege, it's it's really beautiful to me and it's very healing for me to be able to work on bodies, especially bodies like mine. And yeah, that level of trust that people give me is like such an honor. I think that's such a healing thing. It makes me feel good about myself in a way where, yeah, I don't know. It's like there's like this access to someone's vulnerability, I guess. Yeah, and then for other people, I think, or as on the receiving end of body work, I mean, I think it helps you get to know your body a lot better and like healing in any way is not always pretty. And so like getting massages sometimes, especially if you hold a lot or especially if you're not used to that kind of body work, it can uproot a lot of ugly feelings, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, make you aware of a lot of things that you were not really wanting to be aware of. But that's kind of what the point of healing is, like, and of course, I really like to go at the person I'm working on. I like to go at their pace, and I would hope that someone working on me would do the same. But yeah, it's a really a lesson in self-awareness and self-awareness is part of healing to me. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what does healing mean to you, and you've already shared a little bit about that. But is there anything else you want to share about what the healing journey looks like for you?
it's just ongoing. I don't know. It's so interesting. I would be super curious to know. I guess that's like the point of us being here, right? Like is continuing to heal, which sounds ridiculous, but I sometimes I wonder what it would look like in a world where there's like no trauma. Like would we need things like body work? And I actually don't think that it exists to like not have like body trauma because like taking a walk, it takes a toll on your body somehow, like, and it's part of having a body is that like it's, with the things you do, you're going to need repair and recovery, and rest. And I love, the idea of resting. Yeah, I think it's like recovery from the trauma of the day, like of every day, because it exists every day.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was around 2007 when I first read your fat liberation zines. And I've been so grateful for your fat positive activism. And how has your journey as a fat liberation activist evolved over the years?
I think I'm like a little less involved in like actively like doing more public fat liberation work lately, but it's been really cool to like I was really into it like when in my early 20s to making that zine and stuff. Like it really meant a lot to me because I was learning to love my body because of as a result of being a part of a community that valued that stuff, like told me that I was worthy, and they told me that I was beautiful, and I felt like I could take charge of how I was perceived through fat liberation work and like learning about stuff like that. I also have connected with a lot of other fat people through like groups that, you know, I mean, these are like really surface level issues that I'm tackling with like clothing exchange groups, but like, and I think like clothing can be political and stuff like that, but to me, it's not the most important thing in my healing journey, but it is a part of it, and it's also has a role in community building, and it kind of ties into like people's fashion, creativity, expression, and things like that. And through community, we have conversations, and I've met people who are doing really fantastic like work, like shining a light on medical fat phobia and fat phobia in places like in airports and airplanes and things like that. And it's been really amazing to be a part of that community all over the wherever I've traveled in the world. Like I've found access to those kinds of communities, and it's a really healing thing to be around other fat people, to see people coming together just because they're fat, and making community and making some positive changes. I've also met other practitioners, like healers, that are explicitly fat friendly and fat positive. And I think like, I guess my work is a fat positive and fat friendly and stuff like that. But it's hard to see it as like activism, because it's just like being a good practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think clothing exchanges is more than surface level. Like it is a really important part of people just feeling good and being able to have options. And so
Yeah.
And you've done so much work with different kinds of care work with all ages. You've worked with babies, and you've done postpartum care. And more recently, I was really moved to hear about your experience caring for your grandma through her journey with cancer and transitioning out of her body. And how has doing this care work through all different ages and end-of-life care impacted you, and what have you learned about bodies through all this care work?
I've learned about bodies that everyone at different stages in their life will need care. And, you know, I mean, we're always requiring care, but like there are points in our life where we will be completely unable to care for ourselves in specific ways. And care work means a lot to me. I think it is like a part of being anti-capitalist to be involved in community care, to be focusing on the issues of care for people who need it, like children, parents, disabled people, the elderly, and people who are transitioning out of their earthly life. I witness like there, even in like childbirth and childcare, there is grief and loss, and as well as joy and just like growth and liberation and stuff, and there's always something to learn. I love watching a birthing body like recover from a birth is like, whoo, that's like so magical and beautiful, and like the things that a birthing body can like theoretically do. Like that's really cool. And like it's beautiful to be a part of that. That's another vulnerable thing that's or an intimate and vulnerable thing to be a part of that I've been really privileged to be a part of for a few friends. And yeah, like knowing people through their pregnancies has been really cool to watch how the body just physically changes. And like, there's this like, impact on identity that happens with becoming a parent, that I've witnessed. I'm not a parent myself, but I've witnessed this in a lot of close people in my life. And it makes me curious about what my parents were like before they were parents, or what other people's parents were like before they were parents, and how that impacted them. I've also like watching children grow and develop is really sweet. It can be stressful and frustrating and magical and amazing. And also there's like a little bit of grief because, you know, most parents will be like, oh my God, I miss my newborn baby. And like, I blinked for a second and they're a toddler now. And, you know, when they kind of like learn their autonomy is really funny, and it's definitely humbling and challenging, and wonderful. And then with end of life care, I've done care for a few sick people, who are at the end of their life. And I was never really afraid of it, even though I think it's scary because we don't talk about it. I'm not sure if that's the only reason. And like, we're all like, have a little bit of fear around our own mortality. And yeah, caring for my grandmother was really intense, especially because of our relationship. You know, we weren't like the best match for you know, how we do things, how we like things done and stuff like that. So it was very frustrating, but you don't really, I didn't choose I didn't choose that situation. I just, you know, fell into it, and I with honor and respect, of course, like to care for my grandmother, like even though we were not always seeing eye to eye, I really wanted her to have as much dignity and love and care and space for her grief as she her abilities were changing day to day, as she needed more help than she was comfortable with, as her body changed. I definitely saw her in a way more intimate way, like way that I have than I have ever seen her. 'Cause I've just known her as like the caretaker of the family and the strongest woman and the most independent. It was really interesting to like hold space for her grief about her changing body when I was really thinking in a, you know, my values about like bodies and ability and like are different than hers. And like at first I was kind of like, oh, like she's being ableist, internalized ableism and blah blah blah. And I there's of course a degree of that, but I do think like people have the right to grieve their bodies changing. It's hard. But yeah, and like I think doing that stuff does tie into the body work stuff and like how I approach body work and with like allowing people the grace and autonomy to name their own, experience with their pain and their trauma, and kind of lead the way in their healing process, that I'm like co-facilitating a healing process for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just so touched by hearing all your stories and just amazed at your like capacity and patience and your capacity to love and care, even when she was resisting the process so much, so it was, I really learned a lot from hearing your stories.
It wasn't easy. It was not always fun and easy. Like I love thinking about the time, like now that I'm not in it. Like I mean, of course I did not love that she was sick, but I loved that I was able to be there for her. But it was hard. It was like, mental breakdowns every couple weeks. And, we fought. We were both activated at different points. And, and it was also hard for me to watch my grandma's like physical form changing, and it was taxing on me as well. And I was feeling it in my body as well, like not sleeping as well. I was sleeping on the couch, too. But like my grief, holding on to my grief was also affecting the situation.
Yeah, I also appreciated, even through the frustration and the grief, that you carried like a sense of humor too, and could like laugh and like tease your grandma, and she just like have your banter and like have fun and humor even amidst this like really really challenging hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, she didn't love it all the time, but I had to do something.
Totally. Yeah. So do you have any stories that you want to share about your experience of being in your body personally? Because we all have our unique journey in our bodies. So do you have any stories that just have been really important for you in your body journey?
Yeah, I think, oh my God, there's like so much stuff that I can remember from childhood. And like, growing up, like my family used the term gorda, like little chubby or fatty or whatever, as a term of endearment. And I always saw it that way. And I know not everybody does. But I remember being in kindergarten and introducing myself to my first best friend, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Katie," and I said, "Hi, I'm Mercedez, but you can call me Gorda," because it didn't seem like a bad thing to me at all. Yeah, and I think about that all the time, and how over time it had changed for me. And now that's like my grandma called me that like till the end of her life, and like all her birthday cards or like her voicemail messages were like, "Hey gorda," or "mi gordis," and I just find it cute. I don't see it as a dirty word or anything. And of course it's the context and like my experience and stuff like that. But and don't get me wrong, my grandma was very like fat phobic. R.I.P. But she she had her like vintage values about bodies and stuff. So yeah, growing up, my mom was never like body shaming to me. Like, I guess there were some comments about like health here and there, but I've always been chubby. I've always been a fat person. And my mom always made me feel like I was beautiful. So, you know, when I like was kind of introduced to fat phobia in the more like the fourth grade when I transferred schools, I was like, wait, what? Like it was kind of new to me. Um, and I was bullied a lot for being a fat person. Um, and then not to mention, well, I wasn't bullied for being queer in grammar school, but I definitely had feelings about like girls, and I was like, wait, only guys like girls, so am I supposed to be a girl or a guy, you know? And I was like, maybe I'm supposed to be a boy because I like girls, and I was in the wrong body. Like I remember having this dialogue in my, or this like thought process in my head. And yeah, that's like such a funny memory for me, like looking back on it. Like I don't feel like I'm in the wrong body, and I don't feel like my gender, I mean, I don't love the binary, but I for like, you know, definition's sake, I guess I'm like a cis woman, and I fit into that category, and it's not like a huge problem for me. But it's funny looking back on those thoughts, like how you connect like sexuality and gender and things when you're a kid and you don't know anything about that. Yeah, and then like when I was 18, I was around like 17, 18, I started hanging out with more like radical lefty anarchist people, and that group of friends really helped me to feel good about my body, and that I kind of thought being fat was cool again, like in kindergarten. and and then come the zines and the groups and stuff, and yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that a lot of like things that I'll never forget about how people have treated my body, and ways that I felt like disconnected from my body, and ways that I felt connected again to my body, and like I'm healing in my body. One funny story is that when I was in massage school, I used to hate my feet, and I was very ticklish in my feet, and when, you know, we have to massage each other in school, so I was kind of like, oh yeah, like I'll just skip the feet for myself. And the teacher was like, oh no, no can do. Everyone has to learn, so you have to get your feet massaged. And I was horrified. But over time, I got used to it. It was like exposure therapy. It wasn't like super consensual or anything, but for me it worked. I was just like, ugh, like every time someone went to touch my feet, and trying so hard not to like kick them from being too ticklish. And now I love my feet, and I love a foot massage. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a funny.
That's a big transformation. I've never heard that story before. I love that. Any other stories you want to share?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've talked a little bit about like how like right now I'm in a moment of like disconnection with my body. It feels really nice to actually have this conversation and remember times that I felt more connected, but like just having gone through like just grief, I'm like, I have neglected my own body for a while, where like I'm in a little bit of pain all the time. So it's hard to feel like myself, and it's hard to feel attractive. And that's a huge part of my life, is like sexuality, flirting. I've definitely my sexuality, I think, is a big part of my identity. And so being in this kind of like funk has been weird, because I'm like, what does it mean? Like, what am I without that feeling of like the sexy energy that I used to really identify with and feel so deeply. Yeah, just being like, as a person who has felt fetishized in relationships and professionally, I think it's really difficult to see yourself outside of the fetish. And yeah, and then along with the grief stuff, and it's hard to feel sexy when you're grieving, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wish we didn't have bodies, but we were just like little gas bubbles. But bodies are beautiful, so.
Yeah, I mean, I love just talking about bodies, and I'm so fascinated by all the stories about bodies, which is why I wanted to start this podcast and really just, we can all learn so much from each other, from our different body experiences.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, I'm pretty impressed. If you want to talk about bodies, I've broken a lot of things in my body. I've had a lot of injuries, and like, my abilities have changed over the years, and still I'm in awe of the things that my body can do. And I feel like there's always something that your body can do that's really beautiful and impressive, and like your brain included, and you know, like just like the grouping of cells that make up your body it's just cool. So, you know, I think I try to think a lot about like what role ability plays in our identity, and like our connection to our bodies. But yeah, I think the whole thing is fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some ways that you've been finding pleasure in your body lately?
I've been finding pleasure in my body by listening to it, resting when I need to, being around other bodies like mine, other fat bodies, which I feel like I don't really have as much of an opportunity to be around lately. Of course, I have a lot of like fat friends and stuff, but it's just I've been like a little more isolated lately. I have been going to the gym, which I do love. I have a love-hate relationship, because I really enjoy I enjoy getting my heart rate up, but I hate what I have to do to get there. And I enjoy the feeling afterwards, of course, like that endorphin-y feeling. I recently got a massage for the first time in I don't know how long, but it was wonderful. And I love massages, and I've been trading little massages with a close friend. And eating well is good, and eating junk when I want to is good, like feels good. And what else? Being in some water, going for a dip in our nasty lake, and taking bubble baths. I know that's like such a cliche self-care like thing, and I know self-care is not just bubble baths and naps, but a bath will change me. Like I come out of the bath feeling so refreshed, and it's part of taking care of myself and like feeling connected to water in general. As a Pisces, yeah, so like exercise, eating well, taking baths, being around other bodies like mine, and getting massages.
I actually was going to ask you about, I think you have like a bath tray
Oh yeah.
that I noticed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get one of those. I've been inspired by your baths. Like I remember I made like a fancy little snack plate for my bath, and I sent you a picture to be like, this is inspired by you. Like,
Yes.
super decadent.
Snacks in the bath is like my eating and bathing, like my two favorite things. And I just love sitting in there and turning the hot water on again when it runs out. It's just such a privilege to live in a place where I have a nice bathtub that I fit in. And, but like, let's be real, I would squeeze my ass into any bathtub I possibly could. And I have done. But, yeah. It feels really sensual, and not necessarily in like a sexy way, but just like the senses are, they're definitely, they're sensing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. There's just taking a bath is a sort of like energetic and spiritual cleansing that resets me in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah.
And I've appreciated in Japan, the bathtubs are a lot bigger and deeper, so you can like submerge more of
like
your
those
body.
square wooden bathtubs. Oh, yeah, amazing. I've been in one.
Yeah, and like bathing is such an important part of the culture that people usually take baths every night. And when I'm visiting my relatives, they like think I'm weird if I don't want to take a bath every night, and they pressure me. They're like, "Come on, get in the bath. Like, the water's ready." So
yeah, I love that.
So, where can people find you online to book a massage or to sponsor a massage for someone else who might not be able to afford one?
You can visit my website, which is currently Massage by Mercedes. That's massage spelled the regular way, MASSAGE BY by Mercedes MERCEDEZ.net. It's .net. Don't go to .com. Somebody bought my domain name, and it's like probably porn. So I mean, type massagebymercedes.com at your own risk. But I am at massagebymercedes.net. And I think I'll stay there.
Okay.
Unless I forget to renew that domain name in 2 years.
So yeah, I'll post the link under the show notes. And so people should definitely go and sponsor a massage. And if you're in Chicago, go ahead and book a massage.
Yeah, come see me and we'll do a little healing journey for you.
Yeah, and it's so important to sponsor massages for other people because, like you said, it should be accessible to everybody. And so it's such a treat when people sponsor a massage for someone else. So
yeah, I recently I kind of posted this thing on Juneteenth or around Juneteenth about, I was like, any day is a good day to sponsor a massage for a Black person, but Juneteenth especially. And 11 Yeah, 11 people got sponsored massages.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it made me really happy and made me aware of the possibilities of like community care. That's what makes me happy.
Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you.
And
this was your first recording, right? So that's wonderful and fabulous. I mean, of course, there's like little kinks to iron out, but I think we did good.
Yeah, I'm always just so grateful for your love and care and everything you do for the community.
Samesies.
All right, let's seal the medicine and magic of this call.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or on YouTube, and feel free to leave any questions, other topics you'd like to hear about in a future episode, or anything else you'd like to share in the comments. Please leave a review for the podcast, and if you'd like to go deeper in the conversation in our inner circle, you can join our Infinite Earth Body Collective Patreon. You can see the link in the show notes, and thank you again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode.